right, this breaking news. Sources tell CNN that Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino has told people that he's considering resigning amid a major clash between the FBI and DOJ over the continued fallout from the release, or lack thereof, of the Jeffrey Epstein memo. Joining us.
Guys, thanks a lot for joining us today. Just do a quick, everyone's talking about it, so I kind of have to talk about it as well. Just see what CNN says on their side. Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, see what the story is, how it's going to play out. Let's see how it goes. See where they take it, at the very least.
Joining us right now in Files, joining us right now on the phone is CNN anchor and chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, what more are you learning?
Yeah, Fred, it remains to be seen if he actually follows through with what he has told colleagues. But what we do know is that Dan Bongino has told people he is considering resigning as the deputy director of the FBI over the fallout that has continued ever since this memo was released last Sunday. The anger inside the MAGA base has only continued to grow instead of going away, as some officials inside hoped it would. And now our colleagues, along with Christian Holmes, Tanner Rabinowitz, and Evan Perez, we're hearing that he's considering resigning after they had this heated confrontation with the Attorney General Pam Bondi over the handling of this earlier this week. And basically, there was a meeting at the White House where the FBI director, Kash was there, the White House chief of staff, Susie Wiles. They were questioned about whether they were part of a story, that there was basically some infighting over how this came out, and this memo that said we're not going to be releasing any more information related to Jeffrey Epstein. And I should note that we were told Bongino denied leaking any story to this outlet that it was reported on. But there has been a lot of fighting between Attorney General Pam Bondi specifically and the leadership over at the FBI over who's to blame in this situation. I think the context.
Well, the question is it who's to blame, or is it like what can we and cannot do? Can and cannot do, right? You got to realize that these guys, Bongino and Kash, they were in, the ethos of the podcasters that were going on the shows. They were doing the rounds. Bondi, she was outside of that world. Like, she doesn't understand the gravity of having this information come out. And like I've said in the previous videos, I don't think this will ever come out to the fullest extent, because there are probably just so many levers that would be triggered in the event that this stuff gets out, right? Like, you got to understand it. This is not just people with money. These are people with massive amounts of power, right? So the power dynamic is the ultimate effect in all of this stuff, right? We have countries, we have groups, organizations, people, and the people on top of all those things that have been compromised through essentially, this pay-to-play blackmail campaign, whether it's Mossad or CIA or whatever the situation is, right? So what we need to understand is that you can't be shooting yourself in the foot, right? As the United States or whatever. Now, that's not me saying that this stuff shouldn't come out. And like I've said in previously, as far as anyone doing something with minors, I think that should come out. I truly believe that should come out. If it's, on the other hand, if it's blackmail, meaning like, if it's some guy that was like, sleeping with a hooker or whatever, and like, I don't think we should jeopardize national security for that. Like, that's stupid. If we have that in our back pocket and we can use that to leverage him, then fine. It is what it is. Everyone else is going to do it. But we shouldn't compromise our morals and say that it's okay to take children and do these horrible things that people are saying have been done to them. That should never be the case.
Here is obviously Dan Bongino, Kash. They came from this MAGA world where they themselves had pushed a lot of questions about the so-called client list that Epstein had beforehand, and now the MAGA base is just not pleased or satisfied with what they've said in this memo.
It's not about being pleased or satisfied. It's about saying that, a lot of people in MAGA believe that there are actual pedos that are like running around and doing all these things, and like, I don't understand how CNN can't think that those people should be held accountable. It's pretty ridiculous.
Memo that came out unsigned from the Justice Department and the FBI on Sunday night. So what we are told is Dan Bongino did not show up to work today, that he is essentially not there out of protest. But whether or not he actually follows through on this still remains to be seen. We're still reporting that out. But it just speaks to the backlash that the White House is very much feeling and understanding after this memo came out, despite President Trump the other day in the cabinet room asking, who still cares about this? One thing we know is the MAGA base certainly does.
All right, Caitlin Collins, thanks so much for that. We'll check back with you as you learn more. CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez is also with us. And so, Evan, is it your understanding that if Bongino were to resign, it's as a result of the infighting, including with the AG, Pam Bondi, or is it mostly over the disappointment of these Epstein files either not existing or not being released?
How could she say not existing? Like, that is one of the most disingenuous things. Like, what do you mean not existing? Like, if you want to say that there isn't a check box, an Excel spreadsheet where, like, it says like Bill Gates and it like lists, like, okay, maybe not, but we already know there's flight logs, right? And a lot of them, obviously all this stuff has been redacted. So we understand that there's a massive amount of information that hasn't been provided to the public for whatever reason, right? For whatever reason. But for you to say there, it's essentially like she's saying, well, they gave us everything that they were going to give us, and then that's it. It's CNN, but it's just wild.
Well, look, I think Fred, there's a larger issue here, and I think if you look at Dan Bongino, he was a very successful podcaster. He had a very big following online, certainly very financially successful with his podcast that was a very very strong appeal inside MAGA world. And this job really hasn't been, I think, very much fun. And
this MAGA world thing, it's kind of annoying. It's one of those things where, when you start consuming this stuff on a daily basis, like I do, like I try to stay as much in the know as I possibly can without like doing like Ian Carroll deep dives, like just I stay on the surface level for the most part, but I try to get the broadest views I possibly can. It's like they get their orders out, like obviously everyone knows this. They get the term MAGA world, and they just keep running with it, pounding it into the ground, like it's serving a purpose. Right, so you have to understand that when they get the orders out, what if it's kind of like something that's been like tested out in the field. It's like, all right, this is what we're going to roll out. This is the rollout now. MAGA world. It's annoying.
If you've seen him doing some of his interviews in right-leaning media and conservative media, he has said as much. He has said that this job is taking a toll on his life, on his personal life, with his family. He's having to essentially be separated from them while he's here in Washington doing this job. It's not nearly what he's used to back in the days. Obviously, he is someone who came from law enforcement. So I think there's a bigger story here in terms of what Bongino is thinking. But I certainly think part of what Caitlin laid out just now is partly the story here, and that is that there is some daylight between top FBI officials and top Justice Department officials over the handling of this Epstein matter. You'll remember that back in February, the Attorney General Pam Bondi led this event at the White House where they brought in all these MAGA influencers, these conservative influencers on social media, and gave them, with great ceremony, these binders that were supposed to contain these Epstein files. Turns out, though, most of the files were actually out there for years. And so it was a great embarrassment both to Bondi and to FBI officials who really didn't have much role in this. And so that's where some of this begins and where you see some of the distance. And so I'll point out one quick thing that on social media today, Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, has tried to respond to some of the pushback from Lara Loomer and some of the other, and he has basically tried to point out that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and the Justice Department leadership are all on the same page, that there is no daylight. If you look at the tweet, he says, the suggestion by anyone that there was any daylight between FBI and DOJ leadership on this memo's composition and release is patently false. Now, he's referring to the memo that went out this week where they said there's no there, we're not releasing anything else. It's very clear, Fred, that there is daylight between the FBI and the Justice Department over the handling of this. And so we'll see how this plays out in the coming days and weeks. We don't know whether Bongino is coming back to work next week. It appears he's taken the day off. He's down in Florida somewhere. And so we don't know whether he's going to be back to work next week, but we certainly know that this is not a story that is going to go away.
I keep saying it. I've said it on many videos so far. It just seems like I've said previously, it seems like this information cannot come out, like to whatever extent. I mean, personally, I would think that if you're whatever government you are that has this material or whatever, you kind of make a deal. You need at least a couple of fall guys. You need somebody out there. You need some people out there to be held accountable. Now, again, I'm kind of repeating myself. I know a lot of people haven't seen my previous videos or whatever it is, but the release of this information could be like the nuclear Armageddon, essentially, right? We don't know who's being kept in check, what countries are being kept in check, what organizations are being held at bay because of this information. Right? That's something that we are not privy to, and that's something that maybe when Bongino and Kash came into the position that they're holding, they see, oh shit, like we can't let this stuff out because that's keeping this over there and that over there and whatever, right? But if that's the case, then just shut up about it. Don't say there's no there, right? Because everyone knows there is a there, right? Just stop talking about it. Just stop bringing it up. Stop releasing these stupid folders to influencers and stuff like that. Like, it's just a debacle. And a lot of it, I think, hinges on Bondi, because Bondi was not in that world. Bondi didn't realize what the active base, right? The core of MAGA, in my opinion, doesn't give a shit. They're raising their family. They're doing what they have to do. They're paying their bills. They're making ends meet. They're just living their lives, right? But the active MAGA, the people that are online, the people that are consuming content like this, the people that are doing content like this, the people that are, they're on X and they're running around. This is a big deal. A big deal, right? Because, and again, if you step back for a second, you start to realize why maybe some of this stuff can't come out. And again, like I've said before, and I'll say it over and over again, if it's with small children, all bets are off. However, if what you're doing is you're blackmailing and you're using like CIA tactics to hold somebody at bay because they did something that may not be maybe frowned upon, it is what it is. Every country does it. That's part of the game. But huge missteps. If anyone's still here with me, I thank you so much. If you can like, share, subscribe, that really helps me out a lot. If you can follow me on X, 6283Talk, we can have conversations on there. If you drop down in the comments, I will respond to any of your comments, guys. But yeah, a lot of missteps in the Epstein case, Epstein Files. I think Pam Bondi might be on the way out. I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but Kash and Bongino seem like they're not happy, right? They seem like they've been held hostage for quite a while. And with this new thing that's been released saying that there's no there, it's kind of a big deal. But guys, thanks a lot for coming out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.